In every mythic narrative, in every ancient story whispered across generations, and in every modern tale framed on a screen, there exists a singular figure, often referred to as the Chosen One. This figure is marked not by privilege, but by burden, not by comfort, but by a calling that demands transformation. The idea of the Chosen One persists because it mirrors a fundamental question about human experience. Why must those who are meant for something greater face their hardest trials before their true journey even begins? This question is not just symbolic, it forms the backbone of countless hero arcs, philosophical texts, and timeless epics. Destiny, in these narratives, is not granted freely. It is earned through a precise and often uncomfortable initiation phase, where the individual must confront difficulty before receiving clarity, strength, or purpose. When we examine the structure of these stories, a consistent pattern emerges. The Chosen One rarely starts in a position of power. They are frequently uncertain, untested, and unaware of their potential. Before they step into the role assigned to them, they encounter an early obstacle that appears disproportionate to their current abilities. This initial hardship is not there to punish them, but to illuminate the gap between who they are and who they must become. It functions as a diagnostic moment, exposing vulnerabilities, beliefs, fears, and limits that must be confronted before destiny can expand their path. The test becomes the first doorway into growth, a threshold they cannot bypass. They must step through it willingly or be forced through it by circumstances that push them into change. The tension of this moment is essential. Without conflict, there is no development. Without discomfort, there is no evolution of identity. The Chosen One archetype makes it clear that destiny is selective because responsibility is selective. To carry something significant, the individual must demonstrate the foundational qualities that allow them to withstand, adapt, and remain grounded when the mission intensifies. In this way, destiny behaves less like a reward and more like a contract. It requires evidence before commitment. It demands proof before empowerment. And it reinforces the idea that greatness is never accidental. It is forged. This early testing phase also serves another crucial function. It forces self-recognition. Many characters who are destined for something extraordinary begin in denial or avoidance. They do not believe they are capable. They do not see value in their own potential. The test interrupts that mindset. It exposes something latent inside them that would otherwise remain dormant. Whether through failure, struggle, or an unexpected breakthrough, they are confronted with an undeniable truth. They are being shaped for more. Without this awakening, the Chosen One might reject their role, withdraw from responsibility, or collapse under the weight of expectations they are not mentally prepared to face. The trial ensures alignment. It forces clarity. It stabilizes the path ahead. At its core, the question of why destiny tests the Chosen One first is a question about preparation. Destiny refuses to invest in someone who has not yet demonstrated readiness because a mission of great magnitude requires resilience, conviction, and inner capacity long before it requires skill or external power. This moment of proving becomes the psychological foundation for everything that follows. It is not simply a challenge, it is the calibration of a person stepping into their defining journey. If this theme resonates with you or adds insight to your own understanding of growth and purpose, take a moment to support the channel. Like the video, share it with someone who may appreciate its perspective, and subscribe so you never miss upcoming content exploring the deeper layers of destiny, transformation, and human potential. Destiny in any narrative structure is not a passive force. It does not simply select an individual at random and hand over a monumental mission without scrutiny. Instead, it operates through a deliberate and often unforgiving system of filtration. The initial trial that appears at the beginning of a Chosen One's journey is not accidental, nor is it merely a dramatic device for storytelling. It is a structural requirement embedded into the logic of destiny itself. A mission of extraordinary magnitude cannot be entrusted to someone unprepared, someone uncertain, or someone whose internal foundation is too fragile to endure the pressures that the path ahead will inevitably impose. The first test, therefore, acts as a filter, separating those who aspire from those who are capable, dividing those who want significance from those who can embody it. What makes this mechanism compelling is the way destiny establishes its standards, silently, long before the individual realizes that they have been selected for something greater. The filtering process does not announce itself or provide instructions. It manifests through circumstances that seem arbitrary or even unfair, yet they are essential to determining whether the person possesses the core traits needed to carry a mission that extends beyond ordinary existence. The early challenge isn't designed to evaluate skill, knowledge, or experience. It is designed to measure conviction, which is the most decisive psychological resource for anyone embarking on a heavy path. Conviction cannot be taught by others. It cannot be borrowed. It must be revealed through adversity. This filtration is not about punishing weakness. It is about identifying strength that is dormant or untested. Many individuals may dream of a significant role, but few are willing to endure the discomfort required to earn it. Destiny recognizes this discrepancy. The first trial is crafted to expose who the individual becomes when they are stripped of safety, routine, and familiarity. When faced with stress, uncertainty, or loss, some people collapse inward, retreating into self-preservation. Others, however, demonstrate a subtle but unmistakable resilience. They continue moving. They continue questioning. They continue trying, despite the absence of guarantees. This distinction is what destiny seeks. The outcome of the test is not measured by success or failure in a conventional sense. It is measured by persistence, perspective, and the psychological elasticity of the person experiencing it. The logic behind this filtration becomes even clearer when we consider the magnitude of the mission that lies ahead. In every major narrative, the chosen one is eventually called to confront forces far greater than themselves. These may be literal antagonists, structural obstacles, or internal conflicts magnified by external conditions. Regardless of the form these challenges take, the role demands someone capable of enduring stress without breaking, someone capable of learning under pressure, and someone capable of choosing responsibility over comfort. The greater the mission, the more rigorous the evaluation must be. Destiny does not risk placing immense power or critical responsibility into the hands of an individual who will crumble the moment the path becomes difficult. This is why the first test is often disproportionate to the chosen one's initial abilities. It is designed not to confirm what they can do, but to reveal what they cannot yet walk away from. In many stories, this filtration occurs before the individual even realizes that they are destined for anything extraordinary. This narrative pattern is consistent across mythologies, epics, and modern storytelling because it reflects a fundamental truth. People rarely understand their own capacity until they are forced to confront circumstances that demand more from them than they expect. This is why characters frequently face adversity before they know they are chosen. The adversity itself is the medium through which the selection is confirmed. If destiny were to reveal itself too early, the individual might resist or misunderstand the purpose of the trial. They might be overwhelmed by the implications of the mission or falsely assume that their path forward is guaranteed. The uncertainty of the trial is crucial because it reveals who the person is without external incentive. When characters encounter these early hardships, they often perceive them as misfortune or random setbacks. They experience betrayal, loss, confusion, or pressure that shakes the structure of their normal life. Yet within the framework of destiny, these events are intentional disruptions. They destabilize routines that would otherwise keep the individual stagnant. They sever connections that might limit perspective or hinder growth. They break the illusion that the world is predictable or safe, forcing the chosen one to adopt a different mode of thinking. This shift in perception is essential because a person operating solely within the boundaries of comfort cannot perceive the broader scope of their potential. The adversity functions as a lens, refracting their identity in a way that uncovers hidden qualities or initiates internal questioning that becomes foundational later in the journey. The filtering mechanism also reveals another important truth. Destiny evaluates not only resilience but adaptability. Some individuals survive hardship but do so rigidly, refusing to change, resisting insight, and clinging to old patterns. Others, even while struggling, demonstrate the capacity to shift their mindset, reinterpret the situation, or adjust their approach. Adaptability is a critical trait for the chosen one, because every step of their journey will demand re-evaluation of beliefs, strategies, and emotional responses. The first test is often structured as an ambiguous situation, precisely because ambiguity is the natural environment of transformation. A chosen one must be capable of navigating uncertainty without collapsing into despair or delusion. They must be capable of learning while under emotional strain. When destiny filters candidates, the test is often crafted to confront the individual with something symbolic rather than literal. They may be placed in a situation where their loyalty is challenged, where they must make a difficult choice without knowing the consequences, or where they must remain steadfast despite misunderstanding or opposition from others. This symbolically mirrors the future responsibilities of their role. If they cannot maintain integrity in small trials, they are unlikely to maintain it in larger ones. If they cannot resist corruption or fear when the stakes are low, they cannot be trusted with power or influence when the stakes are immense. Another compelling aspect of the filtering process is that it often requires solitude. Even if the chosen one is surrounded by people, the trial isolates them emotionally or mentally. They must confront the weight of uncertainty alone, without reassurance or validation. This solitude is not punitive, it is diagnostic. It reveals whether the person can maintain clarity without external support. It reveals whether they are guided by internal values or merely performing for others. Destiny understands that leadership, sacrifice, and responsibility all require a stable internal compass. The first test illuminates whether that compass exists. Furthermore, the first trial reveals the person's relationship with fear. Fear is an unavoidable companion on any transformative journey. The purpose of the test is not to eliminate fear, but to reveal how the person responds to it. Fear can paralyze, distort judgment, or provoke impulsive decisions, but it can also sharpen awareness, deepen reflection, and compel action when understood properly. The chosen one must learn to coexist with fear without letting it dominate them. The trial presents a situation in which their fear is heightened, not to break them, but to observe how they manage it. Courage, in the context of destiny, is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to surrender to it. The filtration process also highlights the individual's core motivations. Many people desire greatness for reasons rooted in ego, recognition, or escape from ordinary life. These motivations cannot sustain a mission that requires humility, endurance, and sacrifice. The early challenges expose the chosen one's motivations under pressure. If their desire is shallow, the trial will exhaust them. If their conviction is anchored in something deeper, such as principle, compassion, or an internal sense of duty, they will endure even when the path seems unrewarding. Destiny needs this clarity before entrusting them with greater responsibility. Across narratives, we repeatedly see characters experience rejection, failure, or hardship long before destiny reveals its plan for them. These experiences are not obstacles to their path, they are the beginning of the path itself. The filtration mechanism ensures that the chosen one is not selected based on talent alone, but on psychological fortitude, emotional resilience, and the capacity for self-directed growth. The early adversity is a structural test embedded in the architecture of destiny, designed to confirm that the individual is capable of carrying a mission that will demand more from them than they have ever given before. In this way, the first test serves as a silent contract between the individual and the force of destiny. Without it, the chosen one archetype would lose its structural integrity, and the narrative itself would lose the transformation that gives it meaning. When we look across stories, regardless of their cultural origin, the pattern is consistent. The chosen one meets adversity before understanding their role, because adversity itself is what confirms that they can become the chosen one. The filtering mechanism ensures that the narrative remains coherent, the transformation remains authentic, and the mission remains entrusted to someone who can withstand the vast demands that lie ahead. The first trial does more than filter the chosen one. It begins the internal construction process that will ultimately determine whether, unlike external skills, which can be taught through instruction, repetition, and guidance, internal capacity must be shaped through direct experience. No one can transfer endurance into another person. No one can implant discipline or conviction. These qualities must be forged through pressure, uncertainty, and the psychological friction that accompanies true challenge. That is why the first trial is indispensable. It forces the chosen one to confront themselves, and in that confrontation lies the formation of inner capacity. Endurance is often the first internal quality to emerge. The initial trial introduces a level of difficulty that the chosen one is not prepared for, a difficulty that exceeds the familiar boundaries of their previous life. This discomfort can manifest physically, emotionally, or mentally, but its purpose is the same: to create a sustained encounter with resistance. Endurance is not built by brief moments of effort. It is shaped through prolonged struggle, the kind that does not resolve quickly. When the chosen one remains engaged with a challenge that offers no immediate reward, no guaranteed outcome, and no reassurance of progress, endurance begins to take form. The individual learns to tolerate discomfort, not because they enjoy it, but because they discover they can survive it. Each moment they choose not to give up becomes a microscopic strengthening of their internal foundation. Over time, these small increments accumulate, creating a reserve of resilience that will be essential when the greater trials of destiny arrive. Discipline is another aspect of inner capacity that emerges from the first trial. Unlike endurance, which is the ability to keep going despite hardship, discipline is the ability to maintain consistency of action and thought, even when the path ahead is unclear. The trial forces the chosen one into situations where routine and structure collapse. The environments they once understood, whether social, emotional, or physical, no longer operate in predictable ways. Without external structures, they must generate their own internal structure. This is where discipline forms. They must decide, repeatedly, to take the next step forward, even when the destination is obscured. They must regulate their impulses, resist the temptation to retreat into familiar patterns, and continue aligning their actions with an emerging sense of purpose that has not yet fully revealed itself. Discipline in this sense is not about strict control, it is about continuity. It is the process of holding a steady course when everything around them seems unstable. Belief, however, is the most complex component of inner capacity. Belief is not simply optimism or confidence, it is a stabilized internal anchor that allows the chosen one to remain psychologically oriented, even in the presence of fear, doubt, or chaos. The first trial is designed to test whether belief can survive adversity. If belief relies solely on external validation or comfort, it will fail when those supports are removed. Destiny understands this, and therefore places the chosen one in circumstances where external reassurance is absent. In these moments, the individual must confront the possibility that their belief is fragile. This confrontation is uncomfortable, but it is also necessary. Through the trial, belief undergoes refinement. It shifts from something conditional and fragile into something resilient and self-sustaining. Only a person who has held on to belief in the absence of evidence can later take on a mission that requires them to lead others or confront overwhelming forces. These internal qualities, endurance, discipline, and belief, are not isolated traits. They interact, reinforce one another, and form a cohesive internal structure. Endurance stabilizes the chosen one during long periods of struggle. Discipline provides the behavioral continuity needed to navigate uncertainty. Belief aligns their actions with a deeper sense of meaning. Together, they form the psychological infrastructure that destiny requires before granting the chosen one the responsibilities ahead. Without these qualities, the individual would collapse under real pressure later, not because they lack talent or intelligence, but because they lack the internal scaffolding necessary to support the weight of their mission. The first trial also reveals the chosen one's capacity to endure emotional strain, a critical but often overlooked dimension of inner capacity. Many individuals can withstand physical hardship or intense work, but emotional strain, fear, isolation, confusion, betrayal, often erodes the internal foundation more quickly and more deeply. Destiny introduces emotional difficulty early precisely because future challenges will magnify these emotional pressures. If the chosen one cannot maintain stability in the face of emotional upheaval now, they will not be able to withstand the emotional weight of the decisions, losses, and responsibilities that await them. Emotional resilience is built not through avoidance but through exposure. When the chosen one confronts their own fear or vulnerability and emerges still willing to continue, they build emotional capacity that cannot be easily broken later. Furthermore, the first trial forces the chosen one to confront aspects of themselves that they may have ignored or suppressed. In normal circumstances, people structure their lives in ways that minimize confrontation with their own weaknesses. The trial disrupts these structures, bringing their internal flaws, insecurities, or blind spots to the surface. This exposure is painful, but it is also essential. The chosen one must understand their own limitations before they can overcome them. Self-awareness is a fundamental component of inner capacity. because it prevents self-deception. A person who cannot see their own weaknesses cannot grow beyond them, and destiny does not entrust great missions to those who lack self-awareness. The trial functions as a mirror, reflecting elements of identity that the chosen one must acknowledge, accept, and eventually transcend. Another important dimension of building inner capacity is the chosen one's relationship with suffering. Suffering is not glorified in these narratives, but it is recognized as an inevitable part of the process. The first trial establishes that suffering cannot be avoided on the path of destiny. The chosen one must learn not to fear suffering itself, but to understand it as a form of refinement. This does not mean they must enjoy pain or seek it out. Rather, they learn that suffering does not diminish them unless they allow it to. They develop the ability to interpret suffering as information rather than punishment. This interpretation shapes how they will later interpret setbacks, losses, and sacrifices. If they learn through the first trial that suffering is survivable and meaningful, they will not break when the suffering becomes larger in scale. The trial also tests the chosen one's capacity to operate without clarity. Most people rely heavily on understanding the reasons behind their actions. Destiny, however, does not always offer explanations. The chosen one must often act without certainty, make decisions without full knowledge, and commit to a path without complete visibility. This ambiguity is intentional. It teaches the chosen one to detach their motivation from immediate clarity. They must learn to move forward, even when they do not yet see the next step clearly. This capacity becomes essential later in the journey, when the stakes are higher and the consequences of hesitation can be catastrophic. Additionally, inner capacity includes the ability to integrate lessons from past experiences into future behavior. The trial provides raw material, pain, confusion, insight, vulnerability, but it is the chosen one's responsibility to convert these experiences into internal strength. Some individuals experience hardship repeatedly without changing. They survive, but they do not evolve. The chosen one must be different. They must take each insight, each challenge, each emotional shock, and construct meaning from it. Meaning-making is an advanced form of inner capacity because it transforms circumstances into wisdom. Wisdom is what allows the chosen one to make decisions that align with destiny, rather than being driven solely by instinct or emotion. The first trial also forces the chosen one to recognize the difference between internal and external power. External power, abilities, resources, allies, tools, can be beneficial, but these elements fluctuate and can be lost. Internal power, however, remains stable, regardless of external shifts. Destiny ensures that the chosen one begins their journey with limited external power, precisely so they must cultivate internal strength first. If the chosen one were to receive external power prematurely, they might become dependent on it or misuse it. The trial ensures they understand that power without inner capacity is unstable and dangerous. Without this early phase of internal construction, the chosen one would be unable to withstand the pressures that define the later stages of their journey. They would crumble when faced with overwhelming adversity. They would falter when confronted with moral dilemmas. They would retreat when the world demands their leadership. Inner capacity is not optional. It is foundational. The first trial exists to ensure that the chosen one does not collapse at the moment when destiny requires their full strength. The early trials that the chosen one encounters do more than filter and strengthen them. They catalyze a deeper psychological and existential shift, often described as the awakening. This awakening is not a dramatic burst of enlightenment in the traditional sense, nor is it merely the realization of a hidden destiny. Rather, it is an internal reconfiguration, a reorientation of identity that aligns the individual with the path that destiny has laid before them. Before this moment, the chosen one often moves through life carrying assumptions about who they are, what they can do, and what their purpose might be. These assumptions are usually inherited from their environment, shaped by societal expectations, or built from limited experience. The early trial disrupts these assumptions. It throws the individual into a conflict where their previous identity is insufficient, where their old patterns collapse, and where their existing understanding of themselves begins to fracture. In this fracture lies the beginning of awakening. The awakening moment becomes the fulcrum on which the entire transformation pivots. It often emerges subtly, not as a loud declaration, but as the quiet recognition that the person they were before is no longer compatible with the path ahead. This recognition does not happen instantly. It unfolds gradually as the chosen one navigates the emotional, mental, and sometimes physical aftermath of their first trial. In the wake of hardship, they begin to sense that something within them has shifted, something fundamental and irreversible. The pressure of adversity has exposed qualities they did not know they possessed. They may discover a resilience that contradicts their earlier self-doubt, a clarity that cuts through confusion, or an instinctive drive towards something greater that defies their previous reluctance. These discoveries are internal signals, indicators that the awakening has begun. Awakening is fundamentally a process of self-redefinition. The chosen one must re-examine their identity, not in a superficial sense, but at the level where beliefs, values, and instincts reside. Before the trial, they may have defined themselves through limitations imposed by upbringing, by fear, by social roles, or by the narrow understanding of their own potential. The trial confronts these limitations directly. It presents challenges that require the chosen one to act beyond the boundaries they once believed were unbreakable. When they survive, endure, or rise despite these constraints, the old identity loses its authority. The individual begins to question the validity of their former self-concept. If they thought they were weak but endured a situation that would break others, what does that imply about their true nature? If they believed they lacked courage but acted decisively in a moment of fear, what hidden qualities have been asleep within them? These questions are not intellectual. They arise from the lived experience of survival and struggle. Identity begins to shift accordingly. This redefinition is not always comfortable. The chosen one may resist the implications of the awakening. A larger destiny demands sacrifice, responsibility, and the willingness to step into roles that may feel overwhelming. At first, the chosen one may cling to their old identity because it feels safer, more familiar, and less demanding. They may attempt to rationalize their trial as coincidence or dismiss their emerging capabilities as anomalies. This resistance is part of the process, a transitional phase where the old identity makes its final attempt to maintain control. But the awakening persists because the internal evidence cannot be ignored. The chosen one has already demonstrated qualities that contradict their self-limiting beliefs. Once these qualities are activated, they cannot be fully suppressed. Hidden capabilities often surface during this period, emerging not as supernatural abilities, but as latent strengths that were dormant until hardship forced them into expression. These capabilities vary depending on the individual and the nature of the destiny calling them. They may discover an intuitive, strategic mind, an unexpectedly deep well of empathy, a talent for leadership, or the ability to remain composed in crisis. These capacities are not new, they have always existed within the individual. What is new is the chosen one's awareness of them. The awakening reveals these capabilities through necessity. When the trial demands more than the chosen one believed they could give, they tap into resources that were previously invisible. This revelation expands their understanding of themselves and begins to align them with the archetype they are destined to embody. Acceptance is a critical milestone in the awakening. At some point, the chosen one recognizes that the events unfolding around them are not random. They perceive a pattern, a pull, or a sense of direction that connects their experiences to a larger narrative. This recognition may not come with full clarity about their destiny, but it brings an essential acknowledgement. They can no longer deny that something significant is taking shape. Acceptance does not eliminate fear or uncertainty, but it shifts the chosen one's posture. They stop running from the implications of their trial and begin to consider what it means to move toward their emerging identity rather than away from it. Acceptance marks the point at which the chosen one becomes an active participant in their transformation instead of a reluctant bystander. The awakening moment also reshapes the chosen one's perception of reality. Before the trial, they may have viewed the world through a narrow or conventional lens, focused primarily on personal concerns or immediate circumstances. The intensity of the trial complicates this perspective. It reveals deeper layers of meaning, more complex moral landscapes, or forces operating behind the surface of ordinary life. The chosen one becomes aware that their story is part of something larger. This shift in perception is essential for the journey ahead, because destiny rarely concerns itself with trivial matters. the chosen one must view the world differently to engage with the responsibilities that will soon be placed upon them. The trial becomes the medium through which the chosen one sees who they truly are. This seeing is not literal. It is an internal clarity that cuts through self-deception and exposes the deeper architecture of their character. Many individuals live without ever truly seeing themselves. They navigate life based on habit, reaction, and inherited identity structures. The chosen one cannot afford this. Their path requires self-understanding at a level that most people never reach. The trial reveals this understanding in stark detail. It shows them how they respond to fear, who they become under pressure, which values remain intact during crisis, and which aspects of their personality emerge when everything familiar has been stripped away. This vision of themselves is not always flattering, but it is accurate. It forms the foundation for authentic growth. This awakening is a turning point because it marks the end of the chosen one's ordinary life. Even if they attempt to return to their previous world, they no longer fit within it. Transformation, once initiated, cannot be undone. The chosen one carries the imprint of the trial within them, a permanent reminder that they are no longer who they were. This internal shift creates a sense of dissonance between their past and present selves. They may find that the routines, relationships, or environments that once felt comfortable now feel constraining or irrelevant. This dissonance is a signal that the path forward lies not in returning to the familiar, but in embracing the unknown. The awakening aligns the chosen one with their future, even if they do not yet fully understand it. The awakening is also the moment when inner capacity transitions from raw potential to purposeful direction. Endurance, discipline, and belief, qualities forged in the first trial, are now reorganized around a central axis of identity. Instead of existing as scattered strengths, they become integrated components of the chosen one's evolving purpose. This integration is what allows the chosen one to step into responsibility with coherence rather than desperation. The awakening creates the psychological structure necessary for the chosen one to make decisions aligned with destiny rather than fear or confusion. Without this structure, the journey ahead would fracture them. In many narratives, this moment is symbolized by a gesture, a choice, or a realization that marks a departure from the past. The chosen one may decide to leave their home, seek out answers, confront a threat, or protect something greater than themselves. The external action is less important than the internal meaning behind it. The gesture signifies alignment. It is the first step taken with awareness rather than resistance. It demonstrates that the chosen one has internalized the lessons of the trial and is beginning to inhabit the identity that destiny has called forth. The awakening moment is not the end of transformation. It is the point at which transformation becomes intentional. It is the threshold where potential becomes direction, where confusion becomes clarity, and where the chosen one shifts from passively enduring events to actively shaping their journey. This turning point is essential to the archetype because it marks the emergence of agency. The chosen one ceases to be defined solely by what happens to them and begins to be defined by how they respond to the path ahead. The trial, therefore, is not something the chosen one simply survives. It is the lens that reveals their deeper nature, the catalyst that brings dormant capacities to life, and the awakening force that aligns their identity with destiny. It is the point at which the chosen one begins to see, clearly, profoundly, and irreversibly, who they are meant to become. As the journey reaches its final frame, the pattern becomes unmistakably clear. Destiny does not begin with empowerment, it begins with examination. The chosen one is tested first, not by coincidence, but by design. The early trial acts as a filter, separating those who merely desire significance from those capable of carrying it. Through discomfort, uncertainty, and disruption, destiny identifies an individual whose persistence endures beyond convenience. This filtering is essential because extraordinary paths cannot be entrusted to those who falter at the first sign of resistance. Yet filtering is only the first layer. The trial also functions as the forge in which inner capacity is built. Endurance forms when the chosen one remains standing despite pressure. Discipline emerges when they act with intention, even while surrounded by instability. Belief crystallizes when they continue forward without external reassurance. These qualities cannot be transferred, taught, or inherited. They must be shaped through experience. Without this internal architecture, the chosen one would collapse under the true weight of their mission later. Not because they lack talent, but because they lack psychological strength. Destiny demands this foundation to ensure that when the real journey begins, the individual is able to withstand it. Finally, the trial awakens the chosen one. It forces a confrontation with identity, revealing hidden capacities and dismantling old assumptions about who they are. Through hardship, they begin to see themselves with clarity rather than familiarity. They recognize that something within them has shifted, and that the person they were before can no longer contain the magnitude of who they are becoming. This awakening is the pivotal moment that transforms passive endurance into conscious purpose. It aligns the chosen one with their destiny and prepares them to step into a role they once might have resisted. Viewed together, these layers form a coherent structure. Destiny tests, first to filter, to strengthen, and to awaken. And within this structure lies a universal reflection. Every individual, not only those in stories, encounters trials that feel disproportionate or undeserved. But when viewed through the lens of the chosen one archetype, these challenges reveal a different meaning. They are not obstructions placed in the way, they are part of the way. They are shaping forces, refining forces, necessary precursors to growth. If this perspective resonates with you, take a moment to support the channel. Like the video, share it with someone who may find value in its message, and subscribe so you can follow future explorations into destiny, transformation, and the deeper architecture of personal evolution.